Hey there, welcome to the Community ROI podcast. Here, senior community experts, founders, and C-level managers tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how a community impacts business growth. By listening to these conversations, you'll get actionable steps on how to connect community goals with business goals to skyrocket business growth while still bringing extreme value to community members. And my name is Yurii. I help people and brands shine through communities and personal connections. And my guest is Meghan Bates, a passionate but practical brain in the B2B SaaS community world with prior experience at Tableau, Salesforce, Mural, and Personify, a strategist, restorer, and synthesizer who believes in leaving everything better than she found it, and an expert with sharp customer insights, gift for storytelling, and unwavering dedication to building thriving communities. So, welcome, Meghan.
Thanks so much, Yuri. Glad to be here.
I'm super happy that we finally met, and kudos to Marjorie for connecting us. Hello,
Yeah.
Marjorie, and
Thank you, Marjorie.
yeah, let's have fun. Like all this conversation. Yes, it's a lot of high value and a lot of experience, and also it's a lot of fun. So let's start with the first question. What's your definition of a community for business?
Okay. Community for me is simply the member-to-member connection that an organization can create, or a platform can create, or any kind of channel can create. But it is the member-to-member connection that users can have. So it's, I tell our clients all the time, it is the company itself giving you and I, Yuri and Meghan, the ability to connect. And over time, the hope is through the forum posts, through the events that you host within that community, or the resources or products that you provide, we become converted as better donors or better product enthusiasts, better folks who have a condition of some sort. There are tons of different communities I work with, but to make it very simple, I always say it's the member to member connection you can provide to someone. And that's what I think community is.
I feel like it's so crucial that you talked about member to member connection, because sometimes I'm talking to business owners and they're like, "Oh, let's build a community. We have a newsletter. Do we have community?" I'm like, not really. You have a newsletter, so you have an audience.
Yeah.
It's not really a community. They're like, "Oh, okay. So if we start LinkedIn page, company page, we'll have a community." I'm like, it's a little bit better. People still can communicate in the comments, but it's not a community. So it's very
Yeah,
important to,
absolutely.
to, to name it, that where they can connect one to another. And I'm curious, what's your definition of a community goal?
So goals to me are the unifiable, hardly changeable things that you use to make sure that the community is set, and it those goals should tell people what to do. On the community team, they should tell people what things should be tracked. A lot of the times when I'm working with clients, they'll say, well, we want to try this and we want to try this new feature and this new thing. And that's great. But sometimes I have to go, okay, now let's go back to the beginning. Why are we actually doing that? And if you can get as many of those whys into like three different goals or three different buckets of this is what we're unified around, then it makes it so much more easy to set the tactics, set the KPIs that you want to measure, all those different things can kind of flow naturally.
No, it's interesting because once again, coming to this why, sometimes I see people are starting communities and building communities from another way. They're starting community and then like, okay, let's see how we can get business value out of it. And I'm usually saying, no, you have to see your business goals and then go from there, how community can really help you to reach them, because otherwise it will be
Yeah.
really hard. And from your experience, what is one goal of the community you are working with at the moment, or maybe worked before, that inspires you the most?
Well, let me say actually, to going back to kind of the community goals, I think it's so important that they are very clear. Sometimes we get into kind of corporate speak at the highest level with C-suite, and then we have to kind of braid it in so that it makes sense to the community team, then it makes sense to the users of the actual platform. So I kind of think at each level, it needs to be something that is so clear. People can always say you need to be able to explain what the goal of your community is and the success you're providing in less than 30 seconds. But I also think it needs to be something so clear that, I talk to my dad sometimes, or when people ask, what do I do? It's like, it's so hard to explain to people community at times, and we have to be able to explain it on a fifth grade level or to our parents. It has to be clear goals. So anywho, when I think about what we're measuring, I was counting it today on a walk with my dog. I'm on probably my third or fourth product-based community. So when it comes to those kinds of communities, I think the biggest goal for me personally is making sure we increase product adoption, making sure that the community is a place that a user can say, on my first day of community, I was adopting the platform at X percentage. And over the course of the year, we've taken them to 80% product adoption, those kinds of things. A second to that is retention. So making sure if a user is in my community, they are 2 to 3 more times likely to stick to the product over a direct competitor, or just generally in the market, they are choosing us. And the community can hopefully provide an easier accelerator of that loyalty to the platform.
Like there are very intersected things, product adoption and retention, because like when people are joining the company, when they are just trying, you feel like a welcoming host, that people are coming and you are like making them feel at home. And then as much as they like it, the longer they stay. And I'm wondering like, what are specific actions that you take to reach those goals?
Oh gosh. Well, I think you brought up a really good kind of metaphor that I use a lot. Amanda Peterson and a few of my colleagues at Personify taught me several years ago. Community is like a house party, or it's like a gathering. And so when I think about training my clients or training CEOs on how community should run, it truly is a gathering. And the first thing my team knows about me is I will say, if you think your community is for everyone, then that's immediately almost kind of a red flag to me, because community is not for everyone. You wouldn't say, I'm going to have a housewarming. You would not say, I'm having a housewarming and invite everyone in the neighborhood and everyone at the grocery store and everyone in the university to your housewarming. So in the same way, I think online community is the same. You have to get really clear about who should be there. So first, I'm thinking, to answer your question, what am I measuring? What are we doing? First, it's about making sure the right people are there. And then from there, it's all the onboarding, and this kind of goes into the art of community. Charles Vogel mentions there are a lot of routines that keep people in community. So it's welcoming the users, it's providing them with open-ended content, it's providing them with the events that they want to be a part of. And then from there, it's providing them with some kind of product or some resource or a secondary item that they can really use on their own. I think community, again, it's the member to member connection, but it is also, what are we providing that shows people we know what we're talking about and you should actually belong here, and in comparison to anywhere else.
No, it's fun that you mention it, that it's not for everyone, because when I'm starting to work with a new client, I'm sharing with them a brief of questions, and there are two questions like, who are your potential members and who are not your potential members, to ensure that it's like, if I'm building, let's say, Duolingo, it's for everyone who wants to learn languages, but like, most likely not, because there are different things. If people want to just play some kind of a game and say to everyone that they are learning languages, yes, Duolingo for them. But if they really need to learn language because they need to get a job or something, maybe it's not the best choice. Maybe it's better to go to and have some real courses and to do it like. So it's always, once again, I feel like it's coming from the business goals and coming from your customer journey. And based on customer journey, you're building your community journey. And I feel like it's a long way. So I'm curious, how do you build your community member journey?
It depends. Sometimes it's the features, obviously. So making sure that the onboarding tours and emails and content, all of that, regardless of platform, are clear. So often you get really excited as the person who's building the community and you forget, oh, this person may not know these acronyms, or and it's their first time in a community as well. So making sure a lot of that is clear as possible is really important. I'm also a big proponent of surveying users as soon as you can. And I wouldn't say as frequently as you can, but certainly as soon as you can, because you can track. Um, you, Yurii, were on day one in the community, you did these actions and you didn't take these actions. So that allows me immediately to kind of go, okay, what do we need to configure or optimize on the platform to make sure you're able to have a successful journey in the community? So um, that's largely kind of where I see onboarding and that kind of thing.
Coming back a little bit to onboarding, sometimes there is a big urge to give everything to people. And also I understand that they can be overwhelmed if you give them everything. So how do you personally keep this line between like helping people as much as you can and also keeping them sane?
I love that. The biggest thing that I'm often telling our clients, or even thinking about myself, sometimes it's not about the community not being able to perform certain tasks. It's just not ready to take on those tasks. So I think communities kind of have to grow, and maybe from the first stage of that community, you try the forums or the discussions area and events and maybe one other thing. And then as the community grows, you decide to add on more features. But I try to phase things so that one, you can develop some consistency. It's very hard to create consistency if um, you're trying everything at once, right? You're juggling a bunch of plates at the same time. So keeping things to maybe 3 features of the platform that you really want to focus on really well. And then from there, thinking about the UX. So making sure things are the least amount of scrolls to get to each of those 3 platform features. I make my teams all the time stop and say, all right, let's look at your community. You told me these 3 features are the most important to you. How long is it going to take me to get to that? And we scroll and they go, oh, well, we put it at the bottom of the page. So all those things are kind of in the forefront of my mind, but keeping it simple. So maybe 3 features and tightening the UX as much as you can.
And I feel like it's also connected with surveying people, because when you are constantly getting their feedback, you can understand on what part of the journey there currently is. And I feel like you can also identify how else you can help them and maybe put them on another like next level user journey or something like that. You know how in the games you're defeating your first level boss and then you're going to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your the kind of house party metaphor, right? You wouldn't just bring people into your house and then say, "Okay, I'm going to go somewhere else," and let you just kind of run the show, right? People need really clear understanding of where can I hang out, what can I do here, and like you said, how do I graduate to the next level of this party, so to speak?
Yeah. So you've talked about retention and product adoption. So I believe that you're definitely working with a product team and most likely
Yeah.
customer success or sales team. And still, what 3 teams do you usually work the most with when building a community, and how does a community impact them?
Okay. My brain thinks in a million places because although I community manage, I'm also the community consultant for our clients, and I've done that for several years now. When I think about my experience cross-functionally as a community manager, most of the times I'm working with product to make sure that we develop feature ideas and different things like that. So if users come into the community and say, hey, I'm wanting this on the platform, or I'm interested in seeing if this can be adopted, some of that is able to be tracked through the community, which is pretty nice. When I'm working with marketing teams, sometimes it's the brand awareness. So I may see someone who's really active in our community, and I may take that user and say, hey, our marketing team is looking for case studies, or looking to get our messaging out. Would you share that with your audience and with your network? So I'd say platform, or excuse me, our product team and marketing are probably 2 that I work with most closely. And then when I think about working with CS, a lot of working with CS is providing, I almost get to be like a buffer So when a CSM has to work with someone or they've gone through onboarding, I'm kind of the third base where I can say, all right, here's where I've seen you working on your platform, and here's where we can make some adjustments and adopt more of the product or take some things away. And that's kind of how my role works there.
I had many different conversations with many community experts, and they say that one of the hardest tasks is to encourage other people from other teams to work with community and sometimes to show up in the community and to do it in the right way. And I totally get it because they have a lot of things on their plates, and community is
Yeah.
just one more thing. They cannot always deal with it. So I'm curious, how do you personally encourage people from other teams to work with a community team and overall with a community, but without
Yeah.
just adding more work on their plates?
Yeah. I think it's challenging because I work with product marketing, CS teams pretty interchangeably throughout the week. And I want to make sure um, I'm taking the things that they would like to see in the community or get out of the community while also not putting so much on my plate. I think community managers can load a bunch of things on their plates because they want people to work with them, because they want to be cross functional. So I try to go in from the reverse and say, here are the things that the community team really, really needs. And then we go ask, or then we go work with those teams. I try not to go, what can we do for you? Because we can do a lot of things for you. And then I'm 40 hours into my work week going, all right, I got nothing done in the community. So um, to that answer, I think you have to very, very clearly go in with, this is what I need. Um, and does that align with how you want to work together? And you can kind of massage it from there.
And I feel like you have to have a really good buy-in on the
Yeah.
management level or on the team's level to go is that way. And why I asked about how to not to add more works to other teams and encourage them to work with, because in many companies, community is not having a seat at the table. They feel like
Um,
something that's good to have and usually not must have. So I'm curious, like how do you build this buy-in so that you can go and like say like, hey, here's what community need, how can you help us?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that I see is being able to track your community and tell the story of what your community does and what it does really well. So, an example of this in a previous company I worked for, I would do a quarterly update. I'd create the document, I'd create the video even to show a walkthrough of what I was doing. And then I would kind of virtually, because everything is remote, kind of knock on doors and say, hey, we're doing this in the community. If you'd like 15 minutes of my time, I'd love to share with you what we're doing. And then if I got 15 minutes in the door with someone in C-suite or some higher up leader, that gave me the place to say, well, here's what I need, or here's how we'd like to go further. So that's something that I think community members or community managers have to get good at is here's what we're doing really well and shouting that as much as you can to the people who actually matter.
I know that usually stakeholders also care a lot about metrics and data and
Mhm.
numbers. I'm curious what metrics usually you pay attention to.
So I think tracking community ROI is going to depend on what platform you're using, which I think can be some of the challenge in the community
Mm.
industry is there are different platforms that track different things. So it's kind of hard to find benchmarks. People are constantly asking for benchmarks in that regard. But that and the industries. So there are different industries that people may be in. So I've got commercial clients that may be tracking um, the number of products sold or the number of events people are participating in. On the opposite end of that, I may work with a medical condition community where there are users who may have a certain condition and we're looking to convert them into long time members of the organization or donors in that specific organization. So it's always going to vary. I do think one of the easiest ROIs I always go by, which comes from years gone by, is post to reply ratio. I think looking at the post and saying, if this one post is in the community how many people are actually going to interact with it, can tell you a lot more about your community than you actually think, because it's tracking the kinds of topics people are interested in, the super users who are participating in the community, and that kind of influences how you build a platform, what kinds of features people are maximizing and getting the most value out of. So those are a few of the things that I like tracking, depending on the client and the industry we're in.
So you also talked about how do you bring visibility to community impact internally by like using this quarterly updates and talking to stakeholders. Still, community is not always a bright side. There is also a dark side. So I'm wondering, how do you talk about the challenges that you face?
The challenges I face with internal teams, or
I mean, with
with
community, with something that you are trying
in
to do, and
general?
if something doesn't work the way you want it to work.
Ooh, I find when things don't work the way we want it to work, I have to come in as community consultant, putting my consultant brain on, and remind people that's totally okay. Like, I probably have a meeting each month with someone who goes, well, this isn't working, so maybe the community is bad, or maybe we're doing the wrong thing here. It's like, no. In any marketing campaign or in any email campaign, if it doesn't go well on the first month, you wouldn't say, well, let's throw out the whole software, or let's just cut everything up, or go, banish this role altogether, right? I think that is the nature of community, is sometimes getting things wrong. So when I think about the challenges I see teams facing, it's often maybe you're a brand new community manager trying to operate as a 5-year or a 10-year level experienced community manager. So getting them to think about where they are, where the community is, and what are the practical things we should be doing is one of the main ways I try to, again, keep people passionate but practical.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I see, is people kind of overworking, when we have to think about what are the 3 things we do really well and continue doing that, continue executing it.
I always compare community building to SEO, because in marketing you have paid advertisement. So if you need fast results, you just go pay money to Google, Facebook, whatever, and then you have clients. Or you can invest in SEO and like grow your traffic organically. I don't know what will be in the future, because I feel like AI is just killing SEO, but it's another topic. And still, community is more like this organically growing thing, and you just cannot grow relationships like without having time, because that's what humans are. We need sometimes to build trust, to ensure that we are safe here, to ensure that we are really heard and seen. I feel like it's a very important thing inside. And once I already told about this AI with SEO, how do you use, and if you use, AI in your community building process?
I try to use it minimally. Let's say that to be clear. I use it minimally, but when I am using it, or when I'm encouraging teams to use it, it's certainly to offload some of those admin processes that are either getting in the way of you being able to build a community and have the face time you need with your users, or are just things that you're maybe still having challenges with around. Maybe you're not a good content person, or maybe you're not good at the overall back end of the platform, navigating how to make that work. So there are some things that you can automate using AI, but for the most part, like you said, I try to get in the weeds as much as I can with the clients and with the users who are part of the community, because I think that's where the member to member connection is built, and that's the essence of community, in my opinion. Even kind of going back, I know we were talking about maybe some of the things that you track and that nature. Social media is one of those things. I think oftentimes in community, it's often easy to assume that a social media manager is a community manager, and they can be used interchangeably. And I've been both. And let me tell you, there's a very vastly different experience you're having as a community manager, because on the simplest level, a lot of it is not algorithm based. You are truly getting in the weeds with people, talking to them every day. It's not just sharing the most viral content with them at all times. So some of that you still have to do manually, but it's also the nature of what you're posting. In social media, a lot of it is about being viral and using the right catchphrases, and a lot of community isn't as sexy in that way, and for
Mm.
good. People are going into communities to get the real answers, the real advice that they need, and a lot of that has different tracking and different perspective in the day-to-day versus being a community manager. So didn't want to take you too far off a tangent, but that's something that I think is important too, is distinguishing between social and how community kind of exist together.
I feel like with AI, we are still like changing horses for cars and we still need to walk.
Yeah.
And when you are building community, you have just to walk the talk. You just can't skip this part. You have to be there as a human. You can't delegate everything to AI. And yes, to your point, it's all about the admin. It's all about like making some reports faster or summarizing a ton of information so you don't have to go through everything, or maybe helping you
Yeah.
to create some newsletters out of the community content that people created, or gather some social media signals that you've got on your social media here and there. So I feel like it's
Yeah.
helping us to deal less with this routine stuff and be
Hmm.
invested more in the human connections.
Yeah, because the human component is where AI becomes really tricky. Because if I always say, AI does not have to mean, or community does not have to mean the absence of AI,
Yeah.
but you do have to think about people who are worried about their data being compromised, or worried if I have a medical condition and I'm having a very vulnerable conversation in this community, I probably don't want an AI prompt that tells me, oh, you were talking about this last week, so why don't you make a post about this or curate? There's something about that people are still going, I just want to talk to people who are like me, who get it. And so I think the two can coexist, but we have to be very careful with people's data and the ethics that people are really processing as they're in these communities.
I think that we should have just a different conversation about all this stuff because it's such a huge
Yeah.
topic. And I really wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit to our conversation. So
Yeah.
the final question: what is one thing to do right away for someone struggling with identifying their community ROI?
One thing you can do, I would say, is get started with surveying everyone who is touching the platform. I would survey the stakeholders, the people who are using the platform, and the people who are building the platform, to see where do we really align on how this platform should be built and how we should be building relationship. That would be my recommendation. Start with surveying people and understanding from there. Hopefully your survey is going to track where people are touching the platform, where they're choosing to engage, and how they find value in what you're doing. If you can just start there, I think you get a lot of the answers you actually need to optimize the platform well.
Last but not least, name two people I should reach out to talk about community ROI.
Oh my goodness. Two people, I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Um, there is actually, I work with a group of women who are community builders. So if there's anyone out there that wants to be part of that, I'm here. But that would probably be the first place I'd go. They're kind of small and grassroots, but working a lot in different industries and community building. And it's been really fun to talk to them and get to know that group as well.
What is the best way to connect with you?
Best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm available around the clock, so happy to answer any questions as needed.
Got it. Got it, Megan. Thank you so much for having this fun, interesting, insightful, very deep conversation because you went
Yeah.
like into some rabbit, at least you started going into some rabbit holes here and there. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your personal experience as a community builder, as a community consultant, because during your professional work, you wear different hats. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's very, very valuable when you see the world of community building like from different sides, because you can really, really add a lot to all our international community world plate. So thank you so much for that.
Oh,
And yes, of course, once again, thank you a lot to our amazing Marjorie who connected us.
absolutely. Thank you, Marjorie.
And yeah, Megan, thank you so, so much. And see you in the community world. And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about how the community can help you reach and overcome your business goals faster, let's connect on LinkedIn and talk about it. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.